Chapter 7 Minor Piece Endgames. I want to start with bishop endgames, and here with a special case bishop against pawn, or bishop and pawns against pawns. And yeah, the most important guideline or motive you should know is that a bishop and a wrong rook's pawn cannot win. So if the defending king can get into the corner of the wrong rook's pawn, which the bishop does not control, then the game is a draw. It's a bit unfair, of course. The attacker has an extra bishop and pawn, and the defender only the king, and it's nevertheless a draw, but okay, that's as it is. Yeah, so this you must know. What I'll show in the next examples is a bit more, more difficult, and it might be discussed if one must know it or not. But of course, as these are guidelines and graphical tunes, I had to include it. Okay, but first, nevertheless, this is a win in Hertog Kanarek, European Youth Championship 2011. Black to move and win. Black can prevent White's king from reaching the saving corner by bishop f5. Now the bishop controls this key diagonal, and black will always be able to stop White's king. Body check, and the last move of the game was a body check, and now Zugzwang, the typical weapon of an extra piece against a lone king and pawns, is used, and White loses. Okay, so and king takes a3 would be a major blunder, of course. Then c8 queen deflects the bishop, who has jobs on two different diagonals. So it's of course always best if the bishop only has jobs on one and the same diagonal, and here it is not the case. The bishop can be deflected, and then the king reaches the saving corner, and the game is a draw. But of course, Kanarek played king a2, Hertog resigned. Okay, now it gets much more complicated. First, Rouse's drawing zone. Yeah, with a blocked pair of rook's pawns like this, and of course the bishop doesn't control the queening square. Then the defender draws if the king can reach this zone, and the distance between the king is not too large. Of course, the trivial case, White's king on h1, Black's king on b4, Black wins. This is just if the kings are close. This must be added, and there are some further points which you must know or consider. Okay, the trivial case is if the king can run to a1, then it's a trivial draw. But if the king is somewhere floating around, then it is still not so easy. One exception is shown in the game. For example, here Black plays bishop g6, and White's king is in the zone, but nevertheless lost, as now the king must increase the distance, and the bishop is already on the key diagonal, and now Black is winning. So here even this short distance is too large. You must know this fine points, otherwise Rouse's drawing zone will not work. And if you are near the boundary of the drawing zone, it still works, but here of course king g4 must be played back into the drawing zone, a2, d5, and so on, and it is a draw. Such positions are the reason for the graphical shape of the drawing zone drawn by Rouse. But you must know these additional points, otherwise the guideline is not enough. Yeah, but okay, if you leave the drawing zone, then Frank Lamprecht told me when writing Fundamental Chess Endings that he thinks this is like Black's king is the shepherd, the bishop the dog, and White's king the sheep, and now it is like forcing the sheep into forcing the sheep away and away and away, and then black is winning. But it is not so easy. It's a new game in some way, of course, like shepherding the sheep and forcing them far away enough. But it's not so easy to win such position where the king has been forced to leave draw this drawing zone. And there is another drawing zone with the additional pawn on b4. The drawing zone for the white king is like this. But here it doesn't have such a nice geometrical shape. It's a bit more, difficult to remember. If I had to remember it square by square, my brain would forget it soon. So maybe it's enough to know that there is a drawing zone. It looks like this, and over the board you then must remember and then do a bit of calculation. H1 isn't in the zone, and if you're near the corner, it's always difficult. If black manages to stalemate you, then you have to play b5. Black's a pawn gets a b pawn, and black is winning. And the other thing is, okay, we can see maybe winning. Yeah, here white's only move to draw is king g7. Only then can the king come back into the zone. And now the king comes back to this drawing zone. I don't know if it has a name or not. It is certainly more difficult than Rauser's drawing zone. King A, this would be wrong. Now white's king would be stalemated, b5 forced, and then black would be winning. So white must run into the drawing zone. And then is in the drawing zone and draws. Okay, and winning motives are, of course, here, if the king is stalemated near that corner, now it is stalemated in all cases, and then b5 must be played and black wins. This is a typical winning technique, and the other winning technique is like Rauser's. To go into a Rauser case, and then take the b4 pawn, then it is a Rauser case with a king too far away and win then. This is the case in the game. Black is winning. The king cannot, white's king cannot come to the zone, or in this case it can come to the zone, but unfortunately this is one of the exceptional cases, as we have seen. White is in Zugzwang, and white loses. And so such, it might be discussed to draw the zone from a2 to d5, e4, f5, h3, but Rauser did it, and I follow him, but I ask you to take care when applying Rauser's drawing zone, and also to take care when applying this drawing zone. I just had to mention those graphical rules and guidelines. Of course, I don't think that it makes sense that you learn all the squares by heart. Here it can be done because it is a more well-shaped geometrical pattern, but even here care is required, as we have seen. It is not enough just to know this, you need to know the other points as well. White's king shall not be too far away from black's king, and this position is some kind of exception to the rule. Here white is lost in Zugzwang, and black to move would also win. Black would play bishop h7, and then black also wins. So the above part of the drawing zone must be taken with care. Only when you are on a1 you are really safe. Okay. Last not least, the following drawing scenario from Alina Lamy, Stern Bernal, Univi Open 2012. I call this Bernal's Burnus. He had before already sacrificed his bishop, and now he defends very well. The only move to draw is king c7 to keep both options open. It is most often the right strategy, this flexibility to keep as many options open as possible. Okay, king c6 only move. And now white threatens to come with closer with the king, but moving the b pawn draws, and b5 as well. But I like Stern-Bernel's choice to burn the pawn with b6. Because if taken, then black gets this typical fortress, and of course this is always a weapon against the bishop, to construct a fortress on squares of the color which the bishop cannot control. A typical endgame fighting technique against a lone bishop. And this is also the reason why the pair of bishops is so much stronger. And this strategy obviously doesn't work. But against one bishop, it often works well in the endgame. And this is a typical case in point, like also the case with bishop and wrong rook's pawn. Okay, so yeah, of course Alina Lamy preserved her last pawn, but yeah, white's king is just too far away. King b5 is threatened. So yeah, she parries the threat, but b5 threatens king b6, and now it is a draw, which was agreed as black's king reaches the saving corner in time, and another typical fortress against the bishop would be on the board. Well done by Stern-Bernel, and I of course especially like here the drawing resource b6 to construct a fortress against the bishop. Of course usually the bishop wins with such configurations, but here, as it doesn't control the queening square, the typical problems arise.